So I'm glad you've decided to come and join us. I've got a few slides I can share with you in a few minutes about the retreats, but I'm really curious what feels important to you for this conversation. Is there anything you're bringing or is on your mind as we begin?
David, I'll say I'm curious to see what emerges from just the beginning 6 weeks of maybe kind of like Five Maturities boot camp. It
Yeah.
has we've explored it over the past 6 weeks. I'm curious to see what emerges from that.
Okay. And Patty, how about for you? It looks like you're deep in thought there.
I am. Thank you, David. I'm just eager to hear more about what you're doing because I'm a firm believer in continual growth and that we can't really support our clients to a greater level than where we are ourselves. So just really looking forward to hearing more about
Mhm.
the 6-week boot camp, I guess, because that's what I
Okay.
think this is.
Well, we have two things we're offering next year. So we're going to do some more boot camps of the 6 weeks Lighten Your Load program. We'll do those again. And then we're also doing a longer 6-month retreat as well, which takes in all that and then goes much deeper on each maturity, plus brings in 5 other pieces of work to help you kind of get some footholds about how to work on that maturity.
And I misspoke because I am looking at the 6-month program.
Excellent.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I mean, it's, yeah, one's sort
But
of the
good to
big,
know.
one's a baby brother or sister of the other one. So, but it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And Sheila, did you want to say something or you're just thinking?
Well, both. Thinking
Okay.
about how to articulate this, but it's the continuing growth is very important, but also just this time, I think this is really, important because if you're going to be mature in this in this current environment, you need a lot of resources and a lot of background, and having this community also promotes the fact that it's not just one person or one organization. There's a whole group around the world.
Yeah. Okay. And Danielle or Betty, anything that's present for you as you come in?
Not at the moment, actually. I was kind of surprised that I had signed up for this. I didn't realize I had done it, but that's okay. I'm here.
And you're welcome to leave at any time
I
when
mean,
you're ready.
I was
So.
interested in signing up, but I didn't realize I had actually done it until it popped up on my screen this morning, and I said, "Oh, okay." I don't see it on my calendar, but it's in there somewhere.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah. And Danielle, anything for you?
Well, I'm looking forward to the 6 months retreat, but I'm just thinking about it. I would like to do it because what I feel is important is that space that you have opened for all of us to like share about deep things that are so important in our lives and our work. And also in this space and time where so many things are going in different directions, and I think this space where people can just like share very deep things about the way we feel and the way we think, and learn from each other, that's so important for me.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, good. All right. So let me just share a few slides and we'll kind of talk through some of this, and we'll give you actually a couple of samples of small things that we're going to do during the retreat. If you would like, we can do those as well. And we'll take as long as we need, and we'll go where we need to go to get what you're hoping for out of this conversation. Let's see if I can figure out which one of these. Hopefully it'll be this one. Yeah, okay. There we go. Um, so Betty might have heard this story before, but I'm going to share with you the origin story of this photograph because it explains a lot about why the retreats are called what they do, what it is. And many moons ago, when I was working on my PhD, I was in the rural region of the state of Pennsylvania for a gathering of a bunch of us in our PhD program for a weekend intensive on systems thinking. And it's often to do when you're in this kind of crowds, you stay up late and you talk about all kinds of things. It was an area that was pretty far away from anything. So it's a moonless night, far away from a lot of lighting. So when I stepped outside, two things were very quickly apparent. One was it was way colder than it had been during the daytime, and I was dressed for warmth, not for a cold, cold night. And the second thing was it was dark, far darker than even this picture. And so I realized that the cabin I was staying in on this property was pretty far up this dirt road. So I could walk slowly and feel a bit safer, but freeze. Or I could run and pray that it was smooth enough where, even though I really couldn't see very well, I would make it. And so I decided to run. And so I'm running up this dirt road to the cabin and wondering how I'm going to see anything. And then all of a sudden I notice in the bushes on the side of the road that the bushes are lighting up. Well, I grew up on the West Coast. We didn't have such things where I grew up. So I said, what is this? And then I remembered, oh yeah, there's these stories about lightning bugs. And what was amazing was that what I figured out was that it was the vibration of my feet in the road that stirred them into action to light up. Because I turned around and as I passed this space, it went dark again. And so I basically had my own private landing lights all the way back to my cabin. And it was such an extraordinary experience. I mean, I think I sat down on the porch and just marveled, and I maybe even shed a few tears. I was just so in awe of this. And I'll share more about what the guiding lights are not, but that stuck with me about really that's what all my work has been about is as something's trying to emerge, how do we bring light to it so the client or ourself can see what we need to see to make our way home. And so in this time where things are, as several of you alluded to, let's just say interesting. um, I think it's going to place a lot more emotional, spiritual, physical demands on us, different than it might have been otherwise. So for me, then the notion of freedom becomes important of not carrying anything with us that's not serving us. Because I think we're going to need to be light and agile, even in the space of coaching, to imagine some new ways of working. And I feel like the Five Maturities are a way to help us do that. So that's contrasting to how we've often been preparing ourselves. But I want to just read this from Elizabeth and offer the possibility that we are those beautiful people. And that's really what we're aiming to support in this program. So just enjoy. Um, so one of the aims of the retreat is to help you find places where you may not feel so beautiful at the moment, or you would like to let parts of yourself maybe shine through more, and help you kind of process any of these things that often visit us of defeat, suffering, struggles, loss, et cetera, et cetera. to find the beauty in them. And it's contrasted, though, to about how many of us have grown up approaching development, which often relates more to this. So I'm just going to let you read this again, just as a sort of way to move our way into this. And then I want to talk a bit about the five maturities. So it would be tempting in a time like this to double down on the way we've normally gone about such things. And I think that will come to haunt us. A lot of what is emerging we've not seen before much in our own lifetimes. And both in terms of things we feel are difficult and things that are opportunities. So for me, it comes all the way back to our core self and our sense of our own maturity, our own wisdom, our own self-care, our ability to connect with others, and to begin to find new ways of working. And so the five maturities was a way to think about in language how we might do that. So some of you will have seen this. This is just a map of the terrain of the five maturities. There's just I want to show you this just because we will be visiting all this parts of this universe over the course of the 6 months, and invite you to spend time where you most need and want attention. So, for example, the recent election cycle created a lot of strain on certain relationships. So I have a family that had all voted for Trump the first time, and my mother wised up and didn't do that a second time. My brother's not so much. And so having to deepen my own spiritual maturity to stay in relationship with them and try to appreciate them, and even while I was going a different direction. But I want to just put it, and this is a graphic that we've used a lot, but it might be new for some of you. But I want to just give you just a little guided practice just to show you the kinds of things we're going to be doing in the retreat. And then we'll stop and take just a quick break and talk a bit about the five maturities. And then I'll show you more about what's going to be in the retreat. So if I could just invite you to just close your eyes for a few minutes, and I'll kind of guide you through, but hold the image of this graphic. It's one of our most significant sort of representations of our ID program, but speaks a lot to why we are spending so much time on maturity. So if you just, again, find a way to feel relaxed where you are, maybe just really settle your feet on the ground, feel the ground with your toes as best you can, and if you've got shoes on, and just sort of scan your way all the way up your legs and through your hips and into your belly, and just notice if there's some relaxation wanting to come to your belly. Maybe there's a bit of a tension there. It's easy to kind of hold our belly in these days right now. What would it be like? Just let it relax. Nobody's looking. Let your diaphragm just really relax. Maybe notice letting it settle and drop further in and not coming up so much, which often happens when we feel anxious or stressed. But just let it drop down and just be for now. And if we can do that, just notice what happens to our upper body. Maybe it relaxes a bit, doesn't feel quite so tense. Just keep breathing and allowing yourself to be here now. And from this space, I would like you to imagine that we're on retreat. And bring into your mind anything that you've been dwelling on or aware of or concerned about in recent days. And try to be as specific as you can. Maybe it's a person or a fear, or it's a hope, or it's a project, but just something that's got your attention. Um, that you might want to spend a few minutes reflecting on and sitting with. As you hold this in your mind's eye, I'd like you just to feel it. Like, does it reside somewhere in your body? Does it activate anything in your body as you think about it or feel into it? Just notice what reveals itself. And as you imagine yourself engaging with this, just notice, what do you wish you had more capacity for? What is this situation asking of you? What would you like to draw on to engage with it that perhaps you don't feel fully access to, or the access you have doesn't feel like it's maybe enough, or what keeps coming up inside yourself is not what's helpful? But around your own personal maturity, what is it you'd like to have more or different capacity for? So in our diagram, these are the roots. And so while oftentimes when things are difficult, there's a rushing up, well, I need to do something. I think this time in the five maturities are inviting us to go the other way. It's calling us for much deeper roots as the winds blow stronger, and much more fluidity on top, but much more groundedness on below. So imagine if you were to develop the capacity, what would that strengthen you and enable you to see? What would become clearer if you had more or different capacity? This is the woman who's resting in meditation in a way, and this sort of incubating space, which ironically, she's not looking out trying to grasp or grab onto what's around her, but actually quieting herself so she can actually see more clearly what's actually happening, what's actually called for. So maybe even for yourself, you might want to lean in or maybe even cross your arms like she has. And just see if you felt more capable, with more capacity, what would it allow you to see? And that seeing could be something in yourself, could be something around you. It could be see something that comes up from the past, the present, or the future. But what is it asking you to see that we maybe didn't see when we didn't have a trust in our capacity? So I imagine that this woman is preparing. She's gestating, incubating, readying herself rather than rushing or reacting. But as you can imagine her beginning, and imagine yourself beginning to unfold your arms and begin to lift them up. This speaks to our professional maturity, our competency. What are we able to do? What are we being asked to do? It may not be what we did before. It may not be the first thing we feel an impulse to do. But from this more higher sense of capacity, this greater sense of clarity, what do we sense we're being asked to do? This is our competency. And as she breaks through the dirt, the safety of her cocoon in a way, she enters into the fluidity of water. and and or softer dirt. And this is actually calling us to our social maturity. This is our capability. We describe it as what can we do well, but well is not just effectively or from a performative sense, but also in terms of wisdom. What can we do wisely? This is our reading of the environment. This is our sensing, our instinct, our the understanding the nuances of energies and fields and people, so that we have some discernment about what we choose to do, how we choose to do it. And this is where I imagine that with water, it's more fluid. I believe that our capabilities are going to be called on in different directions now. So again, it needs to be rooted so that we can go do that. So as you think about your um, issue, whatever you brought into this meditation, what capabilities is it calling for? What are you needing to understand or sense about your environment that might give you some clues about what it's trying to show you? And as the stalk for the flower grows, fueled by the water from the roots, and the flower eventually breaks free, the leaves break free and move up towards the sky. This is our contextual maturity. This is sort of the fruition of everything, but it's what brings us credibility. Credibility because we're in integrity with our authentic self, credibility because it's more likely to work, but it's the culmination of this journey that we've been on. So if you were just to start with a piece of that around your own authenticity, is there some sense of yourself that you have that's emerging for you from when you began that might be of value to you as you think about this issue that you're sitting with? And just take another few seconds and get a sense for what would allow you to feel closure. And then when you're ready, I'd like you to come back to the room and we'll just take a minute or so in silence, that you just kind of get back into this world. And if you feel inclined, you're welcome to put any reflections you have in the chat box when that comes time. And if you'd like to speak to that, you're welcome to do that as well in a few minutes. And I'll open up the chat box in case any of you feel inspired. Is there anyone who would like to speak instead of write?
I started out with some clarity and then it got kind of muddy. My water and dirt all mixed.
Ah,
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'm like, okay, at the beginning I felt like, okay, this is what I need. And then by the end I was like, I don't have a clue.
yeah. So one of the questions we'll ask ourselves, because we'll do things like this often in the retreat, is getting you to replay it in your mind and in your body and notice when the dirt started becoming agitated and stirring it up and what's happening that might need some maturing there to allow you to settle. Was there a voice, a memory? Uh, yeah. Does anything
Um,
come up for you as you think about that, Shayla? Or
Not immediately, a few things,
okay,
but nothing. Yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah. Patty, were you going to say something?
yeah, I'm noodling on one of your slides. What if we already had enough?
Yeah.
And that all I felt brought to tears during
Mm,
meditation because so much, I mean, the external voices and excel, achieve, make sure you have this, make sure you have that. And it feels like a long fight. And lately I've been coming back to myself in a way I never had and taking
mm,
a lot of time for it. Well, anyway, what if what I had was already enough?
yeah.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, yeah. Yeah. So one of the things the retreat is not, and then I'll come to you, Betty, is there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that you're on a hunt to go find something. So I think, Tracy, what you're writing will be a common experience. People asking, there are always more things we could be better at or do differently or acquire, but really I think um, there's going to be a lot of noise in the system and a lot of things that are going to be challenging and confusing um, but I also think from an alchemy perspective, everything is exactly as it needs to be. Taoism would say the same. Because I think it's helping bring things into stark relief and giving people much clearer choices. And also helping us realize that this is one of my, I will completely own this is one of my soapboxes, but I'm going to say it anyways. The standard disclaimer for all this is, um, um, well, we're also polarized. And I think that's nonsense. I think that's not true at all. I think that's true for some people who've chosen to be in a polarized place because that suits them. I think we've been made to feel polarized so that we don't ask the harder, bigger questions. And I think that when that people are hungry, some are desperate, some are afraid, some are a lot of things. And I have to imagine that a lot of what keeps us polarized are things that we may not have consciously chosen, but are sort of part of our culture. And I think that there's something that is being asked of us that's highly elemental. Um, and moves away from fancy language and fancy theories and fancy books and all that stuff, getting back to some of the basics of life. Um, and so part of that's going to come down to trust and embodiment. Can I just be myself? Can I be all that I have? Can I be who I am now? And that's fine. And come to trust that at a much deeper level. Yeah. So I'll get off my soapbox and call in Betty.
Well, I've kind of forgotten what I was going to say, but I guess what came up for me in the meditation was, I've been over the last year, I've been in a not a great place. And
Mm,
I'm talking about mentally and not in a great place. And
mm,
I've been trying to, keep moving forward and I feel stuck. I don't want to go into a lot of details, but you know, I, I I think the hard thing is trusting that it really will be, it's fine. It's really fine to be stuck.
mhm.
And just to be able to be patient with that is hard a lot of the time. And I start to get this feeling of panic, like time is going by and I'm not making any progress. And, you know,
Yeah.
the last week has been kind of upsetting for me. And I'm just trying to keep myself from getting into that moving forward blindly kind of
Hmm.
mode that you can get into
Yeah.
when you're in a panic. So,
Yeah. So my invitation to you, Betty, is what other word could you, so being stuck presumes we're supposed to be moving.
could
And
you say that again?
saying that we're stuck presumes that we're supposed to be moving.
Yeah.
Maybe you're supposed to be doing something else besides moving. Maybe you're doing exactly what you're doing and you're not stuck at all. I
Okay.
mean, so if you, like if you were a bear and it was winter, we wouldn't yell at the bear, "Hey, you're stuck. Get on with, get over yourself. Move on." No, a bear's hibernating is exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And like this woman, some people say, "Oh my gosh, she's trapped underground." Well, yes, you could say that literally, but I look at her, she's quite in peace. I need to be doing this for myself. I need to hibernate in some fashion because something is going to be born. And it's not to say that you're not stuck or that it's not uncomfortable or it may not even be what you want. But I think one of the things that trusting ourselves brings is a greater sense of agency in choosing the words carefully to describe ourselves and choosing words that fit us in a way that allows us to make the most of them, as opposed to do what most of us do, myself included, which is judge ourselves for them. I should be moving.
Mm.
And maybe you shouldn't be moving. Maybe there's something, a gift that's trying to be midwifed here for you now, and this being stuck is exactly what you're doing. So it may, and it doesn't mean that if you change the word, things magically get better. It just means you might hold it differently that might open up
Mhm.
more possibilities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I certainly hope that's true. I don't know
Okay,
if I
well,
trust it. I don't know if I really trust it, but I'd
well,
like that to be true.
yeah, well, the only way to find out is to experiment with words and see if another word resonates deeper for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of the things that uh, when I decades ago when I was training as a grief and then a crisis counselor, one of the things that we talked a lot about was people that had suicidal thoughts. And there's all the obsession in society on suicide. But actually, most of them don't have an active sense of suicide. It's just they can't figure out a reason to live. So we talked a lot about living, not about suiciding. And not that we wanted to discount or diminish in any way, shape, or form what they were feeling and what they were really dwelling on, nor did we want to create a Pollyanna, hey, a version of living. But it's just like there's something about that impulse in them that we wanted to help them understand. And and so I think in this time where there's, like I said, there's so much noise in the system. A lot of the way why the system is the way it is because there's way too much noise and way too much energy that's not serving us well. And I think just to be really careful about language and how we narrate the journey that we're on. And you may find words, all of you, in the retreat, if you come, that start to resonate for you maybe in a new way, like that might come to start describing what you feel called to do more of now. And so we've got some activities towards the end of the retreat to get quite pragmatic about how you would like to introduce yourself now. So, and if we can ever support you in any way, Betty, just let me know, okay?
Thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
thanks.
Danielle.
Yeah, when I was meditating, an image came to my mind, like lots of small bags all scattered on the ground. And I was like wanting to grab all those bags, and because I was thinking I have to make like a synthesis of all those small bags, do something with all of them. And then suddenly at the end, it was as if I had to let these bags do something of me, not me doing, I don't know how to say it. It's not, I don't find the words perhaps as clearly as I would love, but it was more of letting myself be done or be stirred upon by all those scattered pieces of reality or myself, I don't know, than trying to grab them and do like produce something like a complete work, because I've been thinking about writing a new book. I've been writing books and I've wanted to write a new book, but I feel it's not writing a book that is needed. And so it was like, I don't know what that means, but something is coming to me, and it's not like I have to grab anything to bring that to life.
Yeah, but there'll be no grabbing in the retreat.
No.
Because that's not. Yeah. Yeah, Tracy.
I love what you said, Danielle, because as you were talking, it I pictured it, and I had this sense of you frantically grabbing bags and trying to figure out, now what do I do with them? And then this other image of you just receiving whatever they have to offer without having to move, that they already are what they are and they already have something to offer, and you just get to stay still and receive that. Like, that felt really powerful.
How's your mud doing, Shayla?
I'm still in it. I'm stuck in
Okay,
it. I'm
excellent.
okay with being stuck in it right now.
All right, good for you. All right. Well, let me just share a few more things about, and I can give you some of the logistics of the retreat, just to talk more about what it looks like. And yeah, so let me go back to sharing the slides for a minute. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. So again, I'll just try to, I love this picture. Yeah, this is an AI generated version of a lightning bug. So you just read this and then see what comes up for you about the retreat itself, and then we'll move into some of the details. So I used to travel a lot. I think I've done retreats in, I think, 20 countries. And through the pandemic and a number of other things, I stopped, and I might do that again if opportunities arise, but this is the closest I can get. But for me, there will be very little teaching. I mean, direct teaching in the retreats. It's mostly about holding space and creating experiences for you, and then helping you make sense and meaning of them to see how it all adds up. I think you'll end up with a bunch of kindred spirits. They'll each be on their own journey, but you'll recognize a lot of the, as you've done already, some of the same features. But it's really important to me that we're not like cementing ourselves as lighthouses at some bleak coastline. We're actually acting like lightning bugs. And there'll be times that one of the skills I think many of us need to, I can certainly speak for myself, to address in ourselves is the ability to be quiet and rest, truly rest. We live in a time when our lives are almost always on. And so a lightning bug is not lit up all the time. Matter of fact, most of the time they're not lit up. They're resting and saving up and building up their juices again. Um, and the fact that, and the reason that they can both be so effective, if you just had one lightning bug, like if there only been in one lightning bug on that road, it would have been useless to me, unless it wanted to follow very close to my shoes, which wasn't going to happen. It was all of them together that allowed me to have enough light, and it's a surprising amount of light for me to get home. And so along the way, we're going to each, you'll see this when we get to that slide, but through each of the maturities we move through, we're going to go through this sort of four-part process that a lot of what, as several of you have alluded to, a lot of what we're going to do in the beginning of each section is what are you being asked to compost? What is now sort of frozen or trapped in an old form that if you were to compost it would actually release time and energy and attention to fertilize whatever needs to come next. So that'll be an important part of our process. Is there anything about this page that stands out for you before we move into the logistics? Anything that comes up for you?
I feel like composting is a better description than stuck in the mud.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the meta skills in a way of the retreat is to whatever degree is possible and useful to us to be with whatever is true, regardless of whether we like it or not. Trusting that unless we've sort of artificially placed ourselves somewhere, and even that can reveal a lot, but everything in the end becomes part of the process. So we'll keep working on that. So you'll have time to move through this cycle, not to spend 6 months in the mud. Although you could choose to do that, and that could be what you need to be doing, but not likely. So we'll help you kind of move through and see what comes out of that. So this is kind of what's included in the experience. So there's a total of 12 sessions that are live. And I'll show you what they entail in a minute, but they're every other week. We do it twice a day, so you can come to the one that fits your schedule and you're part of the world. Come to both if you feel like it. We'll record them so that anyone who is in the group that misses a session can listen to it and watch it later. There's going to be a bunch of resources to help you with each stage of the process, as well as assignments. So in between the sessions, there's both some opportunity for you to do some individual practice, individual assignments, but also some things together with a small group of your participants. We're going to limit this to just 40 regular seats in the program, so people have a more intimate experience. There'll be a space on the Circle platform just for this group, so they can share notes and insights and experiences. And then we'll create a handbook like we're doing right now for Lighten Your Load, that allows you to have all these materials and all the resources and spaces to write all in one place. You can choose to use that or not. You may have a preferred journal or something else, a remarkable pad or something that you use. That's just fine. But all that will be available to you. So this is kind of the way we're organizing this. We'll have a bit of an orientation at the beginning to kind of help ourselves get connected and oriented about who we are and why we're here and how this all works. And then for each of the five maturities, we have 2 live sessions. And then we'll have a piece at the very end to help you figure out what it all means for you and any thresholds that have emerged for you in terms of choices or actions you want to take. For each of the pairs around the maturities, we have sort of an initiation session, which is sort of like, here's the basic parameters of this maturity. Here's some things to think about. and sort of a grounding in kind of some considerations about work you might do around that maturity. It sets the stage for your assignments and your peer pod conversation. You'll come back after doing your assignment to an integration session. How does the initiation material seem to you now? What did you explore? What did you do with your assignment? Kind of what's starting to kind of become more alive in you or clear to you as a result of doing that work. And then from there, you'll take that into your peer pod to kind of process what that whole like month or so has been like for you. Um, and then we'll kind of move on to the next one. And each one kind of builds on the other. I find that if we don't start with personal maturity, people aren't aware of the sort of their blind spots and things they don't want to really look at in themselves. So it means that they're not going to have a lot of room to be open to what they discover further down the road. Um, these are some material that I've taught all of these for many times over the years, and we're going to use these as sort of like appetizers when we get to those maturities. Just as a way to give you some, like I said, footholds, language, insights that we're not going to teach you about these as much as sort of shape some activities for you as one way into how you might mature more fully in that domain if that is something that you feel is important to you. Um, and so like when you think about how you want to shift, maybe make some shifts in how you relate to your clients, or you might use the pieces around attachment theory in that particular month to say, how do I, when I'm under stress or when I want something or when I'm what do I tend to do? Do I tend to move towards people or do I tend to move away from people? And it doesn't have anything to do with it necessarily with introversion and extroversion. It's more about our attachment pattern. And you might say, huh, I've kind of been a solo person most of my life. I work for myself. I prefer to do things by myself. And I'm realizing that my challenge right now is calling me into community. Well, I don't feel comfortable in community. That's not what I've tended to do with my life. Or maybe I've always been in community and always done things in groups, and now I want to stand out. That scares the crap out of me. There's some things around attachment work that can really help you and help you get more clarity in how you relate to others in your life and others in your work as a way to deepen kind of your spiritual maturity. Um, so I'm just going to stop there for a minute and just see if anything is coming up for you now about the way this is all put together. Any questions that you might have or thoughts you might have that you'd like to share for now. All good? I always have this great fear of, I always think, oh, good, I've been clear. And then I think, oh, maybe I've just confused them so much that they don't know even what to ask. So I'm going to invoke one of my lifelong maxims. When in doubt, take it as a compliment. Um,
Well, David,
um,
I'll go to administrative. Is it, can you remind me, it begins at the end of January, is that
yes,
correct?
it does.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It's mostly in honor of our Aussie friends because they tend to take a lot of time off in January. Yeah.
David, I was just thinking that all those words are such an important part of our life and the work we
Mm,
have to do on ourselves. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to like deepen that.
yeah.
Each of them is, each of those words are so important. Like grief is something so important in everybody's life. And
Mm,
at that point in my life, I'm like working on each of these areas in myself. And
mm.
so
Wonderful. We we'd be happy to help you with that. Yeah. 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 Um, let's see what's next. Yeah, so If you'd like, I'd like to just, as you think about what it would be like for you to come, imagine if you could bring, like, spend a day with anybody. Is that part of this, the magic of the retreat, is that anybody you can conjure up would come and spend a day with you as part of your retreat experience. So what I'd like to do, there's 5 of you. So I'll just, we're small enough, we can just stay together. But I'd like you just to we'll take a couple of minutes and then again, one of the things we do a lot on retreats. It's easier to do in many ways when we're in person, but we can also do this online. Is I've found that one of the fastest ways to help people look inside themselves is to look at themselves from the outside in. It's very hard when you say, like, how do you feel? I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel. But if I hold up an object that represents what you're thinking about or dwelling on or worried about, what comes up for you when you look at this? Oh my gosh, I feel really sad. Oh, I feel really sad. And so the reason when we do a lot of these kind of assignments like that is projecting ourselves into another person or an object or a place to sit, is it helps us to understand ourselves. So I'm going to be quiet. I'll give you a couple minutes to think. If you want to take some notes, you can do that. And then I want to just invite us to share who you would choose to spend a day with. And you don't have to answer all 5 questions, but just maybe one of them that sort of stands out for you, that not only made you choose that person, but why you would find that valuable. So we'll do a lot of things like that, but I'll be quiet now and let you just think about that. And then when you're ready, you're welcome to just speak and share with us who you would bring. Is there anyone who would like to share? I've already tipped my hand by putting up the photograph, who I would invite. This is a photograph from Ansel Adams, and I've actually stood at the top of that waterfalls, and I've stood at the top of Half Dome. But well, who would you bring?
I can share because I had someone who came to mind pretty quickly.
Okay.
So it would be my maternal grandmother who died when I was in college. So it's been probably close to 30 years. And she is still one of the people when she comes to mind that I still have the greatest love and affection for, but really didn't have the opportunity to do my adult life in her presence. And I just automatically pictured that we would be like at a cabin on a lake, just the 2 of us. And I just want to hear about her life and her experience. She grew up in Alabama during the 30s and 40s, and then just, from her life ended up with a granddaughter who became a physician. And a lot of it was from the choices and what she came through. But she's just this phenomenal person that I have deep affection for still. So just to be in her presence and to talk to her and to just receive who she is in my current age and place in life.
Yeah. And what would be important to you about that, Tracy?
It's just important just because I miss her and I'd love to just to have that time with her. But I also feel like it would allow for a deeper knowing of myself reflected in where I see connections with her.
Thank you. Who else do we have at our party? You're mute, Sheila.
Yeah, I am. As my computer told me. I would pray. I had a couple, but one was Yves Chenard, and anybody doesn't know, he's the founder of Patagonia. Because what we would talk about is how to be a success without being a sellout.
Hmm.
And those two things compete in my brain quite
Hmm.
often. And we could do anything outside. He's got the outdoor company, so go hiking or kayaking or surfing, whatever.
Yeah. That's, I was going to show you my Patagonian jacket I was wearing until just a little bit ago, but it's on the floor. So,
Mine
yeah,
broke
great.
this morning, but I can take it back and they'll fix it.
Yep, they will.
Yeah.
Hmm. Anybody else want to share? And I thought that's okay too, because you keep, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a very good friend who lives in Australia now. And we've known each other when we were two, and then we lost track. And then we found each other again when we were in our 30s, and our sons were going to the same college. And then we lost track again. And then we met
Hmm.
again, worked a little bit together. And then every time we met, it was as if we were still the 2-year-old child. We had that like child connection, very strong friendship. And then when we were coming closer in our older time, she went to Australia, and so we like I kind of missed that
Hmm.
that connection, but we talk very often. So what I was saying was she and I, when I went to Australia the first time, we went up a lighthouse. You were talking about a lighthouse.
Hmm.
Just climbed up, I don't know how many steps, and it was a wonderful experience to go there with her, like experience of freedom, of just having that wonderful view when you're on the top of the world.
Hmm.
And I just want like to do that again, to experience that freedom again and that friendship
Hmm. Yeah.
and connect to that small child
Hmm.
somehow in me.
Hmm. And where in Australia was the lighthouse?
She's in Rottnest Island. I mean, in the on the
Okay.
western coast. It's a beautiful place.
Hmm. Wonderful. Betty, were you going to share?
Yeah, so I'm struck that I would like to spend the day with my mother. I realize that the importance to me would be that I was always so busy trying to be seen by her that I never sought to see her. And
Hmm.
so I would love to spend the day hearing about her life, her growing, who she was really. It was hard for her to do that. It would be a lovely thing for me to be able to appreciate
Hmm.
her in that way.
Hmm. Thank you. And Betty.
What I was going to say was a whole day. Wow, that's a long time.
Or you can have an hour if you want. You know, maybe have an express date. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a portion of a day, but I can't,
Yeah,
I really
sure.
can't come up with somebody off the top of my head.
That's okay.
Yeah,
No worries.
I
All
got
right.
scared. I got scared by the whole day.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, so the reason that we're focusing so much on maturity is that a lot of the skills we have and the skills we'd like to bring need to have a stronger foundation, an emotional architecture underneath them. So I've been doing a series, now I'm about to start the second one with the Institute of Coaching around some of this work. really focused on the pragmatics of what does it mean for our practices. And then we've have a fascinating group of about almost 85 people in our 6-week boot camp. And the retreat will just be a much deeper immersion in all this with a lot more resources and assignments to kind of help you go deeper on if you're in that now to go deeper on what you've discovered there. Um, and the beauty of this is that oftentimes we end up doing these things either sporadically or on our own. And our hope is that we'll be able to then create an ongoing community. This will become, in many ways, even more important than our programs because those are changing next year. Because I feel like this is something that we do really well, which is to create these spaces. And I feel like we're going to need them to make sense and meaning out of the times. Yeah. And if you haven't read the report and you want some to see where this all came from, you can download that from the website. And if you're interested in, oh yes, these are our 5-year-old skiers. Um, so we won't be standing around comparing outfits or showing off how cool we are. We might tell some jokes to cause. I'm imagining one woman was laughing so hard she fell down. Um, and so we might have that. You might see some of that, but no, like standing off aloofly off to the side, unless that's what you want. We're gonna just strap on the skis and go. Um, because I feel like that's what's being asked for, and that will look very different for each person. But we want to be able to be more freer to bring more of ourself, more of our whole self to this. Um, and then there's a bunch of FAQs on the website. You can register on the website. There's a link for that. And yeah, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Steve, and he's happy to um, help you out in any way that you would need help. So, is there anything else that feels important for you for today? And otherwise, we'll call it today. Mm.
So, David, can you say a little bit more about what will come at the end? I know there's not like we're not going to produce anything or something like that, but what will the end of that journey or that retreat look like from your
Yeah,
perspective?
yeah. So some of that I don't know, but some of it I do know. So the part I do know um, is when I used to do the live retreats, they were always 3 days. And the first 2 days were intense work in small groups, um, largely like using an exercise I developed called the 3 chairs, to kind of build up to get a sense of what was the threshold in front of you. And then on the third day, I would actually literally create a threshold at the front of the room, and we would invite people up one at a time, and I would just steward them to move through their own threshold, whether that took 5 minutes or half an hour or more. Um, eh, and sometimes we would have 20, 25 people. So it made for long, intense days. But for me, it was tiring only because I stood a lot, not because the work was hard. But what it meant was that people were making significant breakthroughs in things that were important to them, witnessed and supported by their friends. And it was just such an extraordinary time. Well, we can't do that because we're going to do this virtually, but we will do something sort of approximating that. Piece I know for sure is that we'll put you into some small groups because it'd take too long if we try to do everybody. And invite you to say to your colleagues, this is where I began. This is where I am now. This is the step I need to take next. And you might have already taken part of that step or all of that step. So maybe you're just reporting on it, or it might be the first time you say this out loud, or maybe you're going to do it when you are done. But you're basically making a declaration of a choice, and then allowing yourself to be supported. And the group can ask you questions if they'd like, but mostly just to honor you as a culmination of the journey you've been on. And so rather than just having reflections, we're going to say, what does that look like in real life? How would that manifest in your life if that were true? So that is the part I do know. And then the rest, I'm not sure yet. It sort of depends on kind of what we discover in the orientation and what people are looking for, what progress or success looks like to them. I've got a whole bunch of things that we can choose from there, but I want to let the group help shape parts of that. The rest of the program is already built, but the final piece will depend on kind of the journeys, my sense of the journeys that people want to be on.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
David.
you're most welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay. I do think we're having kind of a little raffle. So for people that sign up, so it's on the website too. You can go read the details. Steve likes doing those things. And I enjoy them because I get the mystery guests I get to coach. And I enjoy that as well. So I hope you'll choose to come and join us. And if you have any more questions, reach out to myself or Steve. Happy to help out. And
I have one sort of technical question. So
okay.
you only offer one option when it comes to payment in terms of like and I don't live in the US, so if there was a way to directly pay with US dollars, it would be easier than paying with a credit card because of the exchange.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we do that often for people from outside the US. I don't live in the US myself anymore,
Yeah.
even. So I'm now feeling that pain myself.
Yeah, it is painful.
It can be, but I use like Wise and things. It takes away some of the pain, but because their fees are much lower. But just reach out to Steve, and he's done this many times. He'll find
Okay.
an avenue that works for you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'll see you there then.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thank
All
you
right.
so
Thanks.
much.
Be well. Yeah, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.